A married man was having an affair with his nympho secretary and lost track of time. Exhausted from the wild sex, they fell asleep, awakening around 8 p.m. As the man threw on his clothes, he told his secretary to take his shoes outside and rub them through the grass and dirt. Mystified, she nonetheless complied. He slipped into his shoes and drove home. "Where have you been?" demanded his wife when he entered the house. "Darling, I can't lie to you. I've been having an affair with my secretary, and we've been having sex all afternoon. I fell asleep and didn't wake up until 8 o'clock. The wife glanced down at his shoes and said, "You lying bastard! You've been playing golf again. How much money did you lose this time?" A magician is on a cruise ship, accompanied by his pet parrot. Every day, the magician holds a magic show for the patrons on the cruise. The parrot sits on his shoulder throughout the act. Eventually, after days of viewing these acts, the parrot starts to get the tricks behind them all. So as the magician would carry on with his show, the parrot would ruin the act by exclaiming, "It's in his sleeve," or "It's under his hat," or "The assistant has it." One day, the cruise ship ends up hitting an iceberg while the magician and his parrot are asleep. They awaken to find themselves stranded on the iceberg and the ship gone. For days, the magician and parrot sit there, just staring at each other. Finally, the parrot sighs, "Okay, I give. Where's the boat?" I found myself in a pub in Cork, Ireland. A group of American tourists came in. One of the Americans said in a loud voice, "I hear you Irish think you're great drinkers. I bet $5,000 that no one here can drink 20 pints of Guinness in 30 minutes. The bar was silent, but the American noticed one Irishman leaving. No one took up the bet. 40 minutes later, the Irishman who left returned and said, "Hey, Yank, is your bet still on?" "Sure," said the American. 20 pints in 30 minutes for a bet of $5,000. "Grand," replied the Irishman. "So pour the pints and start the clock." It was very close, but the last drop was consumed with 2 seconds to spare. "Okay, Yank, pay up," said the Irishman. "I'm happy to pay. Here's your money," said the American. "But tell me, when I first offered the wager, I saw you leave. Where did you go?" "Well, sir," replied the Irishman, $5,000 is a lot of money to a man like me, so I went to the pub across the road to see if I could do it. A woman is walking hand in hand with her husband on Christmas Eve in Moscow. They're having a nice night when suddenly they start to feel a bit of precipitation on their faces. The woman looks at her husband and says, "Look, dear, it's raining." Her husband tells her, "No, dear, it's snowing." Well, this argument goes back and forth for a few minutes until they see the local communist officer, Comrade Rudolph, walk past. The husband says to his wife, "Look, dear, there's Comrade Rudolph, our local communist officer. He always knows the truth. We'll ask him." With that, the husband shouts, "Comrade Rudolph, is it raining or is it snowing?" Comrade Rudolph looks to the sky and says, "Raining," then continues on. The wife looks at her husband and says, "See? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer." A farmer's wife had an affair with a maple tree. She was ashamed of her actions, but her husband was always so busy with his farm work and rarely had time to tend to her needs. Once she became pregnant, the farmer had his suspicions, but after the baby was born, he was all but convinced the child wasn't his. She denied any wrongdoing, but the farmer was incensed and demanded she take a lie detector test to prove her innocence. In the end, she failed the test and was charged with the crime of treason. An old, tired-looking collie wandered into my yard one day. I checked his collar and saw he was well-fed, clearly had a good home. He followed me inside, walked down the hall, hopped up on the couch, got comfy, and fell fast asleep. After about an hour, he woke up, went to the door, and I let him out. He wagged his tail and trotted off home. The next day, he was back, scratched at the door, came in, took his nap on the same couch, and left again an hour later. This went on for several days. I finally got curious and pinned a note to his collar that said, "Your dog's been taking a nap at my house every day." The next day, he showed up again, with a new note pinned to his collar that read, "He lives in a home with 4 kids. He's just trying to catch up on his sleep. Can I come with him tomorrow?" A man was walking along the beach when he came across an old glass bottle with a cork in it. Curious, he pulled out the cork, and with a loud bang and a cloud of smoke, a genie appeared. Excited, the man asked, "Does this mean I get 3 wishes?" "Yes," said the genie, "but all my wishes come with a price." "I want to be rich," said the man. And the genie replied, "Very well, but it will cost you your good name, and all the people will dislike you." "Who needs friends when you have money?" said the man. "Do it." The genie waved his hands and said, "It is done. What is your second wish?" The man thought for a minute and said, "I wish for a beautiful wife." "This will cost you your looks," said the genie. "You will be ugly and strange." "With a beautiful wife, I no longer need to be attractive," said the man. "Do it." The genie waved his hands and said, "It is done. What is your final wish?" The man thought for a moment and said, "I wish to be ruler of the whole world." "I can grant this wish," said the genie, "but it will cost you all of your intelligence. You will be like a newborn baby, unable to speak or know what's happening around you." "That's no good," said the man. "I want to be able to enjoy it. What can I get for half my intelligence?" "Well, I could help you run for president." Patty was looking for work and spotted a job ad for a door-to-door Bible salesman. So he suited up and headed into town. He walked into the boss's office and said, "Patty, here to apply for the job." The boss raised an eyebrow and said, "Sorry, Patty, I'm not sure this is the right job for you." Patty replied, But you haven't given me a "Sorry, Chance, that's discriminatory." The boss shrugged. "All right, I'll give you a shot. Here's 50 Bibles. Let's see how you do." 4 hours later, Patty came back. "Sold 'em all." The boss was shocked. "Incredible. Here's 100 more." The next day at lunch, "Sold 'em, boss." The boss nearly fell off his chair. "You're hired, Patty. Take 200 more and come to our staff meeting on Friday to share your pitch. We need more stock now, thanks to you." Friday came and the boss introduced Patty. "Ladies and gents, Patty sold 350 Bibles in under 3 days. He's going to tell you his sales technique." Patty stepped up and said, "Well, I knock on the door, and when they answer, I just ask, do you want to buy a Bible? Or do you want me to read it to you?" In the 60s, the Russians and the Americans were competing for the best space program. They both were determined to prove they had the greatest minds and the greatest technology. In one example, the Americans spent almost $1 million just to invent a no-gravity pen. They put their best minds to work and came up with putting a small CO2 pressure cartridge into the back of the ink tube, effectively pushing the ink forward. Genius. And it worked perfectly. And the Russians? They used pencils. A German baby was adopted by a wealthy couple. He grew into a happy, healthy boy, except for one thing. He never spoke Zeiche. After 5 years of silence, little Wolfgang's parents began to worry that he might have a disability. They took him to all the best pediatricians and speech therapists, but none could provide a solution. One night after dinner, Wolfgang was served his dessert. Suddenly he cried out, "Mother! This strudel is a bit tepid. Wolfgang!" His mother exclaimed, "You can speak. All these years, you've been silent. Why haven't you spoken to me before now?" "Well," Wolfgang said, "up until now, everything had been satisfactory." A guy is imprisoned for his first time. On his first night, a few minutes after lights out, his cellmate moves closer to the cell bars. A while later, someone from another cell shouts, "Number 13!" His cellmate and the entire block burst into laughter. The new prisoner finds this strange. Shortly after they were done laughing, another inmate shouted, "33!" And the entire block of inmates again started laughing. 27, shouted another inmate. More laughter followed. The new prisoner is now completely puzzled. What's going on? Why is everyone laughing at numbers? He asks the cellmate. "Oh," replied the cellmate, still giggling. "The thing is, we've been in here for so long, we told the same jokes until we eventually knew them all. So we decided to give them numbers, so that instead of saying the entire joke, you just say the number and we know which one it is." Astonished, the new prisoner decides to see if that's true. He goes over to the cell bars and shouts, "Number 72!" All the inmates explode into massive laughter, and the entire block is roaring, to a point where his cellmate is now on the floor, rolling with laughter. The new prisoner is now dumbstruck and completely lost. "Which one is number 72? He asks the cellmate. In between laughs, while trying to catch his breath, his cellmate replies, "We've never heard that one before." A magician stops a woman on a street. "Pick a card, any card," he says. She grabs one at random. "Now look away and memorize that card. Don't show me." She turns away, memorizes it, and turns back to see that the man is gone. She lived her life as any other. She got a job, fell in love, got married, and got pregnant with her first child. Fast forward 9 months. "Push, push," the midwife and doctors urged. "You're almost there." "The baby." "She's crowning." "But what's that in her hand?" It looks like—" "Is this your card?" a familiar voice said. A man who'd just died is delivered to a local mortuary wearing an expensive, expertly tailored black suit. The female blonde mortician asks the deceased's wife how she would like the body dressed. She points out that the man does look good in the black suit he is already wearing. The widow, however, says that she always thought her husband looked his best in blue and that she wants him in a blue suit. She gives the blonde mortician a blank check and says, "I don't care what it costs, but please have my husband in a blue suit for the viewing." The woman returns the next day for the wake. To her delight, she finds her husband dressed in a gorgeous blue suit with a subtle chalk stripe. The suit fits him perfectly. She says to the mortician, "Whatever this cost, I'm very satisfied." "You did an excellent job, and I'm very grateful. How much did you spend?" To her astonishment, the blonde mortician presents her with the blank check. "There's no charge," she says. "No, really, I must compensate you for the cost of that exquisite blue suit," she says. "Honestly, ma'am," the blonde says, "it cost nothing." "You see, a deceased gentleman of about your husband's size was brought in shortly after you left yesterday, and he was wearing an attractive blue suit. I asked his wife if she minded him going to his grave wearing a black suit instead, and she said it made no difference as long as he looked nice. So I just switched the heads. Bet you didn't see that coming? Well, it's almost Halloween." A woman's husband had been in and out of a coma for months, but she never left his side. Day after day, she sat by his bedside, holding his hand, her love and hope unwavering. One afternoon, to her amazement, his eyes fluttered open. Slowly, he looked around the room and then motioned for her to come closer. Her heart raced with relief and joy as she leaned in, tears welling up in her eyes. His voice was frail, but he managed to whisper with a glint of emotion in his eyes, "You know something. You've been there for me through every tough moment in my life." She smiled, her heart swelling with love as he continued, "When I lost my job, you were there to support me. When my business failed, you stayed by my side. When I got shot, you were there in the hospital, holding my hand. When we lost the house, you stuck with me. And now, with my health failing, you're still here." Her eyes brimmed with tears, and she whispered back, "Oh, darling, that's so sweet. What are you trying to say?" He took a deep breath, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "I think you're bad luck." A man called Andrew moved from Cork to Dublin to open a flower shop. He was quite successful, and through great marketing, quality products, and reasonable prices, Andrew's Flowers became the top garden shop in all of Dublin. Some monks that had a stall set up nearby took notice, and since attendance at the local parish and the accompanying tithing revenue was way down, they decided to grow and sell their own flowers. Since they grew all their own produce, the monks were able to undercut Andrew at every turn, and within 3 months, the monks had stolen nearly all his business. Afraid, running out of money, and growing desperate, Andrew hired local hard man Hugh McTaggart to go to the monks' stall under cover of darkness and destroy it. Then he was to go to their garden and use an herbicide on every bloom and blossom. That night, Hugh did his dark deeds. It proved effective. Devastated, the monks were unable to return to their previous domination of the market. Andrew's Flowers was once again supreme, proving once and for all that only Hugh can prevent Florist friars. Housework used to be Susan's job, or so everyone thought. But one evening, she came home from work to find the kids bathed, one load of laundry in the washer, another in the dryer, dinner simmering on the stove, and the table perfectly set. She was stunned. Turns out Jim had read an article that said, "Wives who work full-time and still do all the housework are often too tired for romance." That night went exceptionally well. The next day, Susan was all smiles as she told her friends, "We had a wonderful dinner." Jim even cleaned up the kitchen, helped the kids with their homework, folded all the laundry, and put it away. I actually had energy to enjoy the evening. One friend leaned in and asked, "But what about later? You know, after dinner?" Susan grinned and said, "Oh, that?" Jim had a headache and was too exhausted. "My wife has worked as a magician's assistant for years now. I think she has picked up a few tricks. I came home from work early today, and she was in the bedroom. She said, 'Abracadabra,' and my mate, Dave, came out of the wardrobe, stark naked. The poor bastard must have wondered what the was going on." There once was a man who worked hard his entire life and saved every penny he ever made. He was the definition of tight-fisted. He loved his money more than anything else. Before he died, he made his wife promise, "Now listen," he said, "when I die, I want you to take all my money and put it in the casket with me. I want to take it with me to the afterlife." His wife, being a good Christian woman, promised with all her heart that she'd do just that. Soon enough, the day came. The man passed away. He was laid out in his casket, looking peaceful and probably still clutching on to the thought of his money. As the funeral ended and the undertakers prepared to close the casket, his wife suddenly said, "Wait a minute." She walked up with a small shoebox, gently placed it inside, and nodded for them to seal it. Her best friend, wide-eyed, whispered, "You didn't really put all his money in there, did you?" The wife smiled. "Of course I did. I'm a good Christian woman. I can't lie. I promised him I'd put all his money in the casket." Her friend gasped. "You mean you actually put every cent in there with him?" "Absolutely," she said. "I gathered it all, deposited it in my account, and wrote him a check." An animal rescuer, homeless shelter director, volunteer pediatrician, and ice cream machine repairman are waiting at the Pearly gates. The animal rescuer meets St. Peter, who reviews her resume of thousands of animals she's saved. Shaking his head, he announces, "Denied." Next is the homeless shelter director. St. Peter looks over his resume, nods slightly, but still announces, "Denied." The volunteer pediatrician, getting nervous, decides to let the ice cream machine repairman go next. St. Peter glances at his resume and, without hesitation, says, "Granted," and the man walks through. Now, very confused, the pediatrician said, "How is it that a woman who dedicates her life to saving defenseless animals and a man who has helped the lives of tens of thousands of people are both denied entry into heaven, but a regular old ice cream machine repairman gets in?" "Simple," explained St. Peter. "We have a McDonald's." A traveling salesman stops off at a farm in County Cork, Ireland. There he sees a pig lying about in his sty with an entire back leg and other body parts missing. When the farmer comes out, the salesman, rather than going into his sales pitch, is overcome by curiosity and asks the farmer what the story behind that pig is. "Ah, that pig," says the farmer in a thick brogue. "That's an amazing pig, that one is. Why, one time when the barn was on fire, that pig ran out and opened the bar doors and let out all the animals trapped inside. That's a fine pig, that one." "Well, okay," says the salesman. "But why does he look a bit odd?" "Ah, that pig," answers the farmer. "Jesus, I love that fine, fine pig. One time when my boy Liam fell down a well, that pig went down there himself and hoisted the boy back up. That's one fine pig right there, that one is." "Yes, indeed he is," says the salesman. "But why does he look all strange and half gone?" "Ah, that pig," answers the farmer. "That is one hell of a pig. One time when the missus went into labor a week early and no one else was here at the farm, that pig delivered the baby and took wonderful care of my wife. That's a fine pig right there indeed." "Okay," says the salesman, a bit frustrated with the farmer. "I get it. He's an amazing pig, a wonderful pig. But why is he missing an entire leg and other parts?" "Ah, that pig," says the farmer. "That's a fine pig. A wonderful pig. 'Twould be a damn shame to eat him all at once."